All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday afternoon with my man Rio, talking some hoops. 8 games on the slate, Rio. We have very spread out I shouldn't say spread out. I guess first game 7:30, last game 10:30. So spread out that way, but a nice break that you have time to do whatever you want to do. 2 games at 7:30, 3 games at 8, and then a 2-hour window, 2 games at 10, 2 games at 10:30. So definitely glad DraftKings kept those later games on the slate. There is injury news, plenty of Q tags, but don't think many will backload because this first game we'll talk about. We were talking a little pre-show, Pelicans, Cavs. Man, who's available on the Pelicans today is the real question, but we'll get into it. Throw it to you first. How's your Wednesday afternoon going?
Doing pretty good. Really, it's a weird slate tonight. This is kind of the slate that you expect to get in like February or April, just like a bunch of random guys. Like Trey Jameson is a guy that we're used to playing later in the season, and then you got a bunch of created players that are going to be getting minutes tonight on both sides. I mean, Cleveland might even rest some of their guys as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see Donovan Mitchell sit this game out. We got to be on the let him know watch tonight and keep our Twitter notifications on to see if he's going to play. But yeah, really gross game to start things off, but it does get a little bit better as we get deeper into the slate.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, 8 games to talk about. Nobody better out here than my man Rio. Last Wednesday, it was quite the day. Thanks to my man Rio breaking down stuff. He was chasing me. We got the job done. 45K again. Rio every single day. The slate plan he has Monday through Friday. He's on here. I'm not going to bring it up. Too good. You have to be a member for that. But goes very in depth with so many things. As you guys know from the show, when he's out on the show, he still has this. Saturday, we have the slate plan. We have quick hit from our man BJ. BJ's been crushing as well. GPP core reports for Rio, Ham, BJ. Showdown content. Shout out to my man Jonathan yesterday. $3,500. Dalton Connett and the captain. Man, what a game yesterday. Rio has a slate plan Monday through Friday. BJ has it on Saturday. Projections, ownership, of course, updated throughout. This is the stone. We do have this the stone for all sports. When lineups go confirmed, you will see confirmed everything you need, our projection, ownership, steals per game, minutes per game, etc. And you can see the times of each game as well, including the pace. We mentioned a little Cavs, Pelicans. We'll get to that game initially. Still plenty of other Q tags on the slate, though. Jalen Johnson, Miles Turner, plenty in these later half. Nurkic. Are you going to – I mentioned, I guess, a little briefly. Talk about backloading a bit. Do you have any leans on some of these Q tags before we go game by game?
I didn't really look too much at builds tonight because I do think that you're going to probably start off your night with at least four guys on your roster right away. So it's kind of hard to get super deep into backloading. I'm not too sure how much better the value gets, even if some of these guys were to miss. But I do think the Indy situation is probably the biggest news because Miles Turner. I mean, they're very thin right now. They're probably going to be getting Ben Shepherd back tonight, but Jarris Walker was downgraded to questionable with the illness tag, which is, like we talk about all the time, that's pretty much a doubtful tag. Johnny Furphy was in there for some, regular rotation minutes early on in the game and then got ruled out with I think it was a wrist or a hand injury, so he's questionable. And then, if Miles Turner misses, we're probably going to see Moses Brown start at 3K, which I think would be a pretty good spot in comparison to some of the Pelican stuff. So that would probably be the biggest news worth backloading for. I don't think that you're really getting too much value by waiting for the Nurkic news. Like we know what we're going to get from Plumlee, and he's kind of priced up at 5K. The Jalen Johnson stuff is, I wouldn't say too big either. I mean, he is obviously a huge usage guy, going to have the ball in his hands a ton, but they did get, they got Bogdanovich back and Kobe Buffkin back last game. So they have some more bodies, a lot more depth where it's not going to change too much. And then we did get Isaiah Hartenstein upgraded to questionable. So that's interesting. Probably going to get the start there, and then slide Jalen Williams down to the 4. definitely some much needed front court depth there. So yeah, basically there's not too much I'm going to be backloading for outside of that Indy situation, because I do think that is pretty big news.
Yeah, it's, again, one of those rare slates. So many Q tags, and a lot of them are pretty late. But this first game with Cavs and Pelicans so depleted, everyone's going to jam it, rightfully so. We're going to jump right into it. Just one more quick thing. Got to say hi to people in chat. But last thing for this. So it's not even going to be – it's going to be stars and scrubs kind of, but it's going to be like Giannis. It's perfect. Just like Wednesday night. Shout out the Bucks. Shout out Giannis. He was 40% owned, put up a 98 piece. You needed him. Giannis, and then a couple mid-tier options, and then just value on the Pelicans Cavs is the clear roster construction right now. So, again, game by game, we'll break down pivots, leverage points, etc. First of all, Sean Sullivan, Go Collect, Wins a Lot, Jordan, Little Neck, Michael W., Max Manning, Paraby, Nate D., Jason Turner, Richard, Jasmine. I don't even know what I want to say to that comment, but what's going on, Jasmine? Wardo, Gangrene, Takedown, Lyle, Jason Turner, Anthony, Metro Boom, Philly Phantom, Matthew, Big Chops. Appreciate every single one of you. What Justin Wahlberg, 150 watching. All we ask from you, like button, subscribe button. Helps us out a ton. If you want to join us at the Nation, ShipItNation.com. Plenty of packages per sport, just projections, ownership, weekly, monthly, 6 month. Hit ShipItNation.com. Join the Nation. We'll be right down there. Check it out. First game of the night, Rio, the biggest one of the slate. I tried to talk a little bit because you're going to need your breath in this one. We have, what do we got in this one? 217 total. Cavs big boy favorites sitting at 14. Injury report, Cavs side. No Darius Garland, no Karis LeVert, no Isaac Okoro, no Sam Merrill, no Dean Wade. Pelican side, no Brandon Ingram, no Trey Murphy. They've obviously already been so hurt. No Alvarado, Herb Jones, Zion, DeJounte Murray, Hawkins. And then also, I think this was a midday downgrade. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but Yevis Messi is now questionable as well. They will have enough bodies. You can see right here, that's 8. They did sign Alfred Payton as well. He's not in the player pool, but that will be enough. Even if Messi's out, you do need 8. And then also they have Daniel Tice, who's been out of the rotation. But, man, break it down. Talk about your thoughts on Messi. Obviously, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl will be a great play. You mentioned the Trey Jameson. This slate's insane, man. How many Pelicans too many? How many Cavs is too many? Yeah, take this one away.
Yes, I mean, pretty much just you can toss out all the matchup stuff out the window here because it's not going to matter. I mean, the Pelicans have been a team that we're looking to attack every night just because their defense is so bad. But, I mean, on the Cavs side, I'll just touch on them really quickly because I do think that, I mean, there's a chance that we get some last-minute news that could shake things up. I'm not super confident that Donovan Mitchell plays tonight. If he does play, it might just be like a short, like 6-minute stints in each quarter or something like that. And then you get 24, 25, 26 minutes, something like that out of him because he's been playing a ton of minutes lately. Played 40 minutes last night in the NBA Cup game. Kind of salvaged a bad night in the last couple minutes like he normally does. But they do have a few days off here, so wouldn't be surprised if Donovan Mitchell is a downgrade throughout the day. So definitely keep an eye on that. Would expect Mobley and Jared Allen to play, but probably not going to be pushed a ton of minutes. I just think that Ty Jerome and Craig Porter Jr. are two of the best value options on the entire slate. I prefer Craig Porter Jr. like over the Pelican stuff just because he's such a strong fantasy point per minute producer. Last season when they had all these injuries piling up, he was a really big producer and kind of kept them afloat. So I do think Craig Porter Jr. gets a really long leash tonight. Kind of same thing for Ty Jerome, although he's a little bit more important in terms of the rotation for the Cavaliers moving forward, but filled in very nicely for Donovan Mitchell the other night against Charlotte, put up almost 40 DK points, and he's got some insane usage rate and insane point per minute stuff with all the injury news that we have right now for the Cavs. He's averaging like almost over 60 DraftKings points per 36 minutes, something like 1.7 fantasy points per minute. Just really, really strong numbers for him. So Ty Jerome and Craig Porter Jr. look really, really good tonight. Not really looking at anything else. I mean, maybe if you want to get different with like a Luke Travers, I don't know much about this kid, but he's probably going to get a handful of minutes tonight. And then on the Pelican side, Brandon Boston Jr. going to be the de facto point guard for the Pelicans tonight. He's been seeing a really big increase in touch time since Alvarado went down, actually leading the team in that category. So he looks like a strong option, 6.6K, going to get a ton of minutes tonight. Should have the ball in his hands a ton. Like he might post a 35+% usage rate. So he looks really strong at 6.6K. I'm not going to be getting to Javonte Green. I just don't think that he does enough at 5K to get there. Would much rather get to Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, who's a very strong point per minute guy. You can see on the Stone, he's at 1.56 fantasy points per minute this season. So that's very strong. And you can't project him he would be projected for like 40 something points at this minute projection. But he looks really strong, like a very strong option tonight. And then Jamal Cain, I like him a lot at 3.8K, should get a ton of minutes. So they're going to need some more ball handling. Same thing for Antonio Reeves. He's kind of the only other ball handler outside of Alfred Payton. So he should get some ball handling right there at 3K. And then the last guy I mentioned, we kind of talked about him in Discord, is this Carlo Matkovic guy. Really strong EuroLeague numbers, pretty strong G League numbers as well. He's averaging 17.3, 9.5, and 2.3 blocks per game over the last 4 G League games. They just called him up tonight, former second-round pick. I was going to say he could be a pivot off of Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, but probably more so a pivot off of whoever's starting at center if Missy is in or out. I think that he would be a pretty sneaky option. I don't think that anybody's going to be going to him, and I could see them kind of just letting him go for like 25 to 30 minutes tonight. So he looks like a pretty decent option. But yeah, definitely a spot where you're going to want to get probably two guys on each side of this game.
Any Messi if he is in, and then any George Niang love. Our man Jordan mentioned him.
Yeah, Jordan's got to be messing with me. I'm not playing George Niang.
What about if D Mitch was out? Still no?
No.
If you think no. All right. And then Messi.
I was going to say, like, for the Niang stuff, I doubt that they're giving him 30 minutes because he's also a pretty big mainstay in the rotation. I would think that they just go to like a JT Thor, Luke Travers, Tristan Thompson will get in there, some Jalen Tyson. Like they have depth that they can go to if they need to. And then if Missy's in, I think he makes for an interesting option because mentioned him in shows prior that they need his size against certain matchups. This would kind of profile as that matchup, but the midday downgrade with the is it a knee injury for him?
Let's see what it was. It was shoulder.
Okay, shoulder. Okay, that's interesting. But I probably wouldn't be going there if he is in. If he's out, I think that you probably get in Trey Jameson in the starting lineup. I don't know. He's had some. I remember like maybe last year or the year prior, he had like some crazy games where he was scoring like in the 40s and the 50s, and then sometimes where he would just absolutely bust.
If he starts, he definitely would be a good play.
Yeah.
The thing is, center also, like right now, the most popular center has got to be Sengun. You could call Giannis a center too. I think he's mainly played at power forward, but roster construction wise, a lot of his value is like Jamal Cain, Robinson Earl, which is power forward. Other side, Jerome point guard, Craig Porter point guard. A lot of the stuff's the guards. So, Giannis has spent up again, I think power forward, but I think Sengun's probably the other most popular center. So it could be interesting with roster construction. It would definitely make 2 center builds more popular. Yeah, I guess like how many, if you had 5 Pelicans, is that too many? Is 4 too many? Is 4 fine? Is 4 fine on both sides? Like any cap there, or do you just not really have a strong lean? A lot of unknowns in this game. I don't know what sample size we have with the whole Pelicans starting lineup pretty much out, and especially if Cavs, if D Mitch is out too. We have a little more sample there, but yeah, what are your thoughts on how many's too many?
I would think that 3 is probably enough. Like that'd probably be the max. You got to remember that this team, like they still have to do stuff when they're out there, and they have 101.5 implied total. Like that's as low as it gets, I would say. Somebody does have to score, but yeah, I would think that 3 would probably be the max. Unless Missy is out, then you probably are going to be able to get to 4 pretty comfortably. But yeah, as of now, I would say that 3 is probably the most I would want on the Pelican side.
Yeah, it makes sense. What a now's a great say. First of all, appreciate the words. A lot of nice people. What's going on, Mr. Mike Daddy? Appreciate you. Eric Garcia, very nice words. Appreciate you in here as well. Michael W. Naj the Great. On FanDuel, could we see the stud point guards going lower owned with Craig Porter Jr. and Ty Jerome only being point guard eligible? Absolutely. FanDuel, those two will be very, very popular. The stud point guards will be a lot lower owned because of that. 100%. Naj the Great. Great question. We don't cover too much on FanDuel here, and the reason for that is, Rio does so much work. He has so much info. DraftKings FanDuel kind of applies for the most part. Sometimes like that it doesn't, but 7% of people watching mainly on DraftKings. So we do have FanDuel cores, though. Our man Ham's on there for cash report. You can always know who the chalk is. I always have a FanDuel cash report as well in the streets. We have ownership for FanDuel, but most definitely Jerome Porter, really popular over there, which will leave other point guard only plays lower owned. Let's keep rolling, Rio. I always talk about a matchup with the Bulls. My man Giannis has a matchup with the Bulls. Again, he will be popular. What do we got in this one, though? A 239.5 spread, man. Or spread. Holy cripes, that'd be insane. Total. Bucks 8.5 point favorites. Injury report in this one. No Patrick Williams. On the Bulls side, Milwaukee side, no injuries to worry about. In terms of ownership in this one, like I mentioned, Giannis will be very popular. He's just in a tier of his own as the spend up. We have all the value in the world. Nobody on the Bulls are going to be able to guard him. Dame, an interesting, I guess, leverage play, maybe. I hesitate to use that word in NBA, but I guess if Dame has 50 real ones, Giannis might not be getting there. I don't know. 8.7K. Interested to hear your thoughts on him. Bulls side, I think there's multiple viable run backs or plays. Kobe White, Levine, Giddey. Interested in all of them a little bit. Like the value of Jalen Smith or my man Taurean Prince, shout out to you. We don't need value in any really spot besides the first game. So I think we're really picking mid-tier and studs kind of in almost all these other games moving forward. This is a game I'm interested in. Talk about the Bulls first. Someone's going to get there, I think, one of these guards.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I could see this game environment going slightly overlooked. The Bulls kind of always get a little bit of love just because they do provide the best game environments on any slate they're on. They're first in pace, dead last in rim defense. They're allowing a ton of pick and roll points too. Their transition defense has not been good. They're bottom 4 in pick and roll and transition defense. Bucks, on the other hand, bottom 7 transition defense. Going up against the Bucks defense, been kind of yo-yoing back and forth. They've had some good games, and they kind of regress and have some bad games where they kind of, they're moving around the roster a ton right now, which makes it really tough from a matchups perspective, because kind of talked about this the last time we were on the show with the Jalen Brunson stuff, when they put Andre Jackson into the starting lineup, that really hurt Brunson's outlook. Kind of the same thing I could expect tonight, but Doc Rivers kind of said AJ Green has been playing a lot better, so he's a good candidate to slide in back to the starting lineup at the shooting guard position to ice out Andre Jackson Jr. But yeah, I'll touch on the Bulls stuff really quick. I'm not going to get to Vooch tonight. Just a really tough matchup for him. The Bucks have been elite as a rim defense this season with Giannis and Brook Lopez down low. They're allowing the 4th fewest rim points in the league, and they're top 5 DVP, really good defense versus centers this season. So I think Vooch is a pretty easy fade tonight, although he did have a good game against them earlier this season. I just not going to go there. I think there are much better spots like Sengun we'll talk about later. But I have a ton of interest in all 3 of Levine, Kobe White, and Giddey for different reasons. Levine had a crazy streak in that Pistons game, shot 7 or 14 from deep. I think he hit 4 or 5 threes in the last 3 or 4 minutes, something like that. But the one area Levine really excels in is his transition scoring. He's 6th in the league in transition scoring this season, where the Bucks are bottom 7 in the league in transition defense. So I think this could be a really, really good spot for him, especially if Andre Jackson is still on the bench, because they'll have Dame Lillard, they'll have AJ Green and Taurean Prince out there. None of those guys are good enough defenders to stop any one of these 3 guys.
You didn't see AJ Green putting the clamps on? You didn't see that video?
I mean, come on.
I know.
Derry Bird over here.
You see that, though? He was clamping. It was like probably a 20-second video. He had a switch, body, hands, but no, I'm playing. Taurean Prince isn't terrible, but he's
not terrible, but definitely, yeah, exactly. Getting up there in age, they're still still searching for guys that can play good on-ball defense. Andre Jackson, just terrible offensively. I just think that he's bad enough on offense to that where his defense doesn't trump how bad he is on offense is kind of how I look at it. And AJ Green's kind of the opposite way. He's a really good three-point shooter, not the greatest defender, even though he did have that one highlight tape. But yeah, the Kobe White is a very interesting option here as well as a run back, 6.8K for him. Very streaky shooter, shooting a lot better right now, but the Bucks are allowing a ton of catch and shoot stuff. They're a huge 3-point funnel along with all the transition stuff I talked about. But he's had some of his best games against teams that struggle against 3-point shooters. Utah is one of the worst teams. Cleveland, great all-around defense, but they do struggle against 3-point shooters. He went 5 for 11 against Cleveland for 47.75 DK points, and then 6 for 9 against Utah for 47.5 DK points. And then earlier this season, he went for I think he had his best game of the season against the Bucks. Went for 35, 6, and 5 with 4 steals. So yeah, he's a really, really interesting high upside option, especially as like a run back with Giannis on the other side. So I like Kobe White a good bit here. And then Giddey, with no Patrick Williams, we probably are going to end up seeing Giddey's minutes increase a little bit. He's very front loaded because he will play 2 normal rotations in the first half, and then they kind of get away from him going for more defense in the second half. So I think if you're getting Giddey, if you have Giddey and Ayo Dosunmu in your pool, probably going to be max one of those 2 guys. But yeah, this could be a spot where I see him putting up a pretty big score here if they can hide him on defense. That's what their coach Billy Donovan has talked about, kind of finding ways to hide him on defense. Going to be a little bit tougher now with Andre Jackson not in the starting lineup, because I would think that that's where they could put him. But maybe they put him on Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez is not going to put him on the post. Like, he's going to stand there on the 3-point line. Obviously, he could shoot over Giddey, but I think that'd be an interesting way to kind of implement him on defense. But yeah, the Bucks are bottom 4 DVP versus point guards this season. Really good spot for him. And then yeah, I mentioned Ayo. He could definitely make the player pool. He's been playing a little bit better as of late. Still not shooting the ball that well from 3-point range, but they'll need his defense. I think Jalen Smith could probably remain in your player pool. And then I probably wouldn't look to get to whoever they're starting at power forward between Julian Phillips or Torrey Craig, 2 really low usage guys, just not enough juice there. And then, yeah, Giannis, just I don't see how you don't play Giannis tonight. This is a great matchup versus the worst rim defense in the league. They're allowing the 4th most transition points. Giannis is leading the league in transition scoring this season, gets all of his scoring at the rim. I mean, this could be a spot where he goes for 50 again. And, I mean, the spot against the Pistons was arguably a lot tougher. They have a really good rim defense with Duran and Beef Stew down low, whereas the Bulls are just terrible down low. So I think that Giannis is the best spend on the entire slate. You're not getting that past anyone. He's going to be 40+% owned, but I'm fine eating that chalk. And then Dame, yeah, you mentioned, yeah, I don't think it's really like a leverage like you said, but it's I mean, this is equally as good of a spot for Dame. Like, you could see huge scores from both Giannis and Dame. Like, they could do all the heavy lifting for the Bucks. They have a really high I think they have the best implied team total tonight, 124. So yeah, I could see Dame and Giannis just doing everything. The Bulls are equally as bad against point guards. They are dead last in DVP versus point guards this season. They just have no good on-ball defenders. Had a bad shooting night last night, went 0 for 6 from 3, but kind of turned it up when they needed him, where he had that game-winning shot against Houston. Played 36 minutes coming off the concussion, so he should be full go. Yeah, I think that if the shooting regresses positive, big score, 8.7K, really cheap price tag for him. And then last guy I'll mention is Brook Lopez. Really good on paper matchup, DVP wise. Bulls are bottom 4 versus position, but he's not really gonna, like I said, he's not gonna be on the block. He's not gonna be looking to score around the rim. He's gonna be hanging around the 3-point line, just launching. But he's been shooting really well lately. Made 11 out of his last 21 3-point attempts. And where you get the upside from him is with the blocks and steals. He has 17 blocks over his last 5 games and 9 steals. So he's got definitely some upside. Also think you could play a little bit of Bobby Portis just because the matchup is so good. Definitely pair him away from Brook Lopez. Lopez has been playing a ton of minutes lately, coming off of 40 minutes against Houston. So, yeah, I think Bobby Portis, maybe he sneaks in there for, kind of spells him a little bit more, gets up to like 30. And we know what Bobby Portis can do. He's a really, really strong scorer, really good fantasy point per minute guy. So he's interesting for sure.
Yeah, but you can always play Bobby, but just know he's going to bust a lot more times than not, but he'll have his games, and he's definitely going to be low owned. where he breaks the slates. Couple thoughts when you were talking. The Dame stuff, I mean, I love the Giannis chalk. And I don't know how much I love Giannis and Dame. I wouldn't even mind being 100% Giannis. I don't know how much I really love Dame. How many times is he going to get 60? Feels like it's been few and far between this year. Now, he obviously has the upside. And the thing to make him a little better is who's priced around him. Like D-Mitch, Maxey, Halliburton. I like Dame more than all of them. But then there's Steph, D-Book, Brunson, who was a little more expensive. All of them also a lot more late swappability in the later games. I know I like Book and Curry more. I'm not sure about Brunson. I don't know. Do you have any leans on Booker, Curry, Brunson, Dame?
Ooh, it's tough. I really like the matchup for Brunson. I'll kind of break that down when we get to that game. It's kind of same for Booker too. Curry has a tough matchup. I don't know. I kind of think I like Dame more than those guys just for the price. I mean, what if there's a scenario where this game just absolutely shoots out? The Bucks haven't really I don't know if the 9-point spread is really warranted for how bad they played this season. The Bucks or the Bulls could easily keep this game close. What if you just have values from the first game and you go with Giannis, Dame, Levine and Giddey or White and Giddey or something like that? I could see something like that happening.
No, I don't hate it. I don't love Dame though. I love Giannis. And on the Bulls side, I definitely have Josh Giddey the third of those three. Kobe White, when he gets hot, he can absolutely put up a crooked number. Zach LaVine, his usage, shout out him. He was also part of the winner. Both of them have double position eligibility. Giddey does not. I've just never really been a fan of Giddey's game too much. But again, he's a fine play. And someone asked the rules on him. I agree with Jordan. I would just say max 2. I don't care which pairing you have or anything. Do you agree on that?
Yeah. I think max 2 is good. And then I already mentioned max 1 of Giddey and Io. I do think Io is, especially in the game environment, he makes a lot of sense.
What's his price?
I think it's 5.1K.
Him or you didn't like Javonte Green, so you like Io more.
Yeah.
They're different positions too. All right, let's keep it rolling. Spent a lot of time, 30 minutes talking those first 2 games. Awesome breakdowns though. Very important games. I think this game gets a little overlooked. I like getting a piece of one of these Bulls guards in a decent amount of teams. And again, I think ownership's relatively in check, and a lot of my teams will have Giannis too, so it makes a lot of sense there. Great breakdown. Let's keep it rolling. Again, everyone watching, 340 people. All we ask, like button. Wow. Like button, subscribe button. Helps a ton. Moving on to the next game on the slates. Indiana Pacers taking on the Houston Rockets. We have a 231.5 total. Rockets 6.5-point favorites. Injuries in this one. Jalen Green questionable for the Rockets. That's a big Q tag. It's illness. Your boy Amen Thompson probably starts. Always fun to play him when he starts. Pacers stuff. Nemhard's out. Miles Turner questionable. Ben Shepherd questionable. And then Jarris Walker midday downgrade with an illness to questionable as well. Man, they'd be pretty thin in the front court. Obviously, no Isaiah Jackson as well. So interesting stuff. Do you have any leans on this? This game is at 8 p.m. Eastern. Start Pacers side, then go to the Rockets.
Yeah, I would expect Jarris Walker to miss here. Ben Shepherd likely returning, but it's not guaranteed that either him or Miles Turner return. I think that the quote from Rick Carlisle was that they were hopeful to have them in this game or their next game. I think they play on Friday. That's usually never good. So, yeah, this kind of mentioned at the top of the show, this is definitely a game worth waiting for some roster spots for some news because a lot would open up. I think that Moses Brown would be very interesting as a 3K punt. But also, I mean, I don't know if he would start. I think they were kind of okay with Enrique Freeman starting. He's very undersized, but they're going to be splitting those center minutes either way. But yeah, I mean, if Jarris Walker and Ben Shepherd miss and Miles Turner miss, TJ McConnell going to get overlooked, and we know what he does when he's on the court. Probably a little bit tougher to get to him just with all the value at the point guard position tonight. But I mean, how would you compare him to Ty Jerome for a couple $100 more? There's definitely upside for both of them, and I don't know if there's more downside on Jerome, but yeah, I don't know. How do you think about that, TJ versus Ty Jerome?
Well, if D-Mitch misses, then it's really hard to make that pivot. Even with if D-Mitch was in, there's just so many bodies on the Pacers side. Like he and his minutes are capped always. Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably rather make a spend up pivot or something. I don't love it. To be honest, I'll be chalky with my value. That's what I mentioned Jalen Smith above. It would be hard for me to get to Jalen Smith just because of the value we already have. He's just center, but point guard's good today too. So yeah, I don't love it. But he always has that point per minute up. He's like Bobby Portis. He always has that point per minute upside.
Yeah, for sure. I think I agree with you there. But yeah, from a macro perspective of this game, I think this is a really big mismatch for the Pacers right now. Pacers are kind of starting to improve their pace a little bit, still playing well below where they were last year from their season average. But yeah, their defense has not been that great, still allowing the 7th most points at the rim, taking away 3-pointers, which is what we're accustomed to seeing from the Pacers. But the Rockets, man, they're just playing really good defense right now. They're the 2nd best defense in the league, have no downsides from a micro perspective. Like the pick and roll, ISO, transition stuff is all really good. They are the best transition defense in the league, which is, you definitely want to see Pacers. They're looking to get out and running in transition. So I think this is a really, really big mismatch here, and I could see Houston winning this one pretty handedly, especially if all those injuries were to pile up. Their offense, the Pacers' offense, did not look that great last game. Halliburton is not shooting the ball well this season, has a nightmare matchup against Dillon Brooks and Amen Thompson, so he would be a fade for me, even though he's going to project decently well from a usage perspective with all these guys out. Siakam, very tough matchup here as well, going against Jabari Smith. The Rockets are 7th best rim defense in the league this season. From a DVP perspective, Houston is allowing a little bit more points to power forward, so he's probably my favorite option on the Pacers side. Miles Turner would be a little bit too expensive for me coming off of the injury that sounds decently serious, so I don't think I'll be getting to him. Matherin, same thing, pretty expensive, but he's playing really good ball right now. He's averaging 37.8. Yeah, he's hooping right now. Really good to see, because he was on his way to having a breakout season last year before the shoulder injury that held him out for the rest of the season. But he's averaging 37.8 DK points per game with Nesmith out in those starts. He's going to be hovering around 35 minutes a game, so he looks probably like the best option. Him and Siakam would be the guys I prefer, because they're just so thin at the wing position right now that they're going to have to play these guys a ton. That's pretty much it on the Indy side. Definitely would change with Turner and all those other guys, all those other Q tags. If they were to be out, then we'll be looking at the spot a little bit more. And then on the Rocket side, love the spot for Sengun if Turner were to be out. We just saw what Jakob Poeltl did to this team, and the Pacers are allowing 7th most rim points. They allowed 52 points at the rim against the Raptors, who are they're not a good offense right now, but they allowed Jakob Poeltl to go for 30, 15, and 2 with 4 stocks, which was his 2nd best game on the entire season from a fantasy perspective. So if Turner misses, Sengun's an absolute smash spot. I think he's probably still fine if Turner were to be in. I mentioned before that the DVP stuff versus for centers against the Pacers were a little bit skewed. They're pretty good. Miles Turner pretty good at limiting fantasy points to opposing centers, but I think that either way, Sengun looks like a really strong option, especially if Jalen Green were to miss. Going to funnel a ton of usage towards him. And Pacers allowing the 6th most pick and roll points per game this season. Fred has not really been a huge volume guy from a pick and roll perspective, but would see a big uptick in usage. Sees a 5% usage increase with Jalen Green off the court and averages just under 1.2 fantasy points per minute, which is a bit above his season average. So he looks really good. And then, Amen Thompson would be a great play at 5.5K if Jalen Green were to miss. That's the type of guy that you save a roster spot for, because he's got massive upside in certain situations when he's given the green light. I mean, he's just been crushing lately. The Rockets organization even came out and said that him and Tari Eason are untouchable, and they kind of took themselves out of the running for Giannis, which kind of tells me that they were probably talking to the Rockets about Amen and Tari Eason being in the trade, and they just don't want that. That's how they view this guy. I mean, he's super talented, super young. So also in a pace-up spot versus the Pacers, they're allowing a good amount of transition scoring. So that's right up Amen Thompson's alley, and Tari Eason for that fact. So I would be max 1 Eason and Jabari Smith, because he's eating into those minutes a lot, but Thompson could float, and I think that he'd be an exceptional play if Jalen Green were to miss.
If Jalen Green's in, did you mention, would you have interest in him? Fair, very fair price tag at 6'5".
I don't know. He's never really the guy that I'm too excited to play. I guess he was kind of close to burying you if you didn't play him against the Bucks. Had only 35 DK points, but 9 rebounds. Sometimes he'll see an uptick in volume there, but I don't know. I kind of the spot would be really good.
Him or Brandon Boston?
I would go Boston. I just think that the
Yeah.
role is going to be insane for him tonight.
Yeah. I mean, he's like a pivot off of Boston. Boston will definitely be more popular. Green maybe get a little. It's a fair price tag, but again, he is questionable. Sengun by far the best play in that game. Amen Thompson if Green's out. Yeah, I don't. It's hard to get to a lot of these Pacers. Little Benny though would be my favorite guard forward eligibility. He's been a beast. Let's actually. Did you want to have any quick comment on? Is it too early to consider Jabari Smith a bust?
Yeah, probably too soon. He's playing a little bit better right now. He's got to figure out that shot because that thing is gross right now.
Let's keep it rolling. Next game on the slate. Good work as always, Rio. Keep it up. I think this game will be a lot quicker, at least for me it is. Philadelphia 76ers taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. We have a 224.5 total. Sixers 4-point favorites. And that makes me think Tyrese Maxey and his Q tag will be in. Curious to hear your thoughts. Regardless, Jared McCain, the best player of all time, 6,300. Were we not on top of it last week, though, on Wednesday? Obviously, he was chalk. I still jammed him crazy. Now he's over 2K more. We mentioned Hooper. He has definitely not let us down. Other side, though, Memphis, Smart, Conchar, doubtful. No Edie, Vince Williams, and then that's all we got. But Conchar and Marcus Smart being doubtful. I'm seeing a little ownership on Jake LaRavia. I want you to talk about him a little bit. I know Brandon Clark on FanDuel yesterday got some. Don't expect much ownership there. I really want you to mention a little LaRavia stuff, but Jared McCain, if there's no Tyrese Maxey, we can still play him at 6'3", right?
Yeah, for sure. He's earned the starting spot. Doc Rivers basically said, or not Doc Rivers. He's gonna be starting. They're gonna be okay having him and Maxey out there for like an undersized backcourt, and they'll just kind of figure it out. So yeah, he's gonna pretty much guaranteed to start. He's been playing really well. This is a good matchup on paper. He's one of the better catch and shoot guys in the league, and definitely the best catch and shoot guy for the Grizzlies. But yeah, the usage is just going to take a massive hit if Tyrese Maxey were to be back. I would expect a very, very strict minutes limit on Tyrese Maxey. So maybe there's still a little bit of upside for a guy like Jared McCain. But just all in all, this is probably the worst game environment on the entire slate. Two very slow-paced teams, a very good defense in the Memphis Grizzlies. They're top 5 right now in defense. I do think that Embiid is a little bit interesting. This is probably the cheapest we'll see Embiid for the rest of the season, I would imagine. He's going to have a big game very soon. He's very rusty right now. It's obviously he's very rusty. He's still playing like normal minutes. He was, in that 32-minute range pretty much every game last season. So the minutes look fine. He's just not playing well, and this is a tough matchup. But I do think eventually that's going to turn around. And this would be a pretty good spot to invest a couple shares in 150 if you are playing tonight because, there's the narrative behind Tyrese Maxey calling him out. They had the player meeting, whatever. So a little bit of a narrative if you want to get behind that. Just a lot of negative publicity around this team right now. So maybe Embiid comes out a little bit more motivated, puts up a big score at low ownership. But outside of that, I'm not really looking to the Philly guys. If Maxey's in, if Maxey's out, we can go right back to McCain, I think. And then on the Memphis side, kind of the same thing.
If Maxey's in, can you get to McCain or no?
I don't think I would. That's just there's so many high usage guys in that starting lineup. I just don't see you're kind of just banking on really efficient shooting because he's not gonna. I don't think the opportunity for assists and rebounding and all that stuff will be there. But he has shot the ball really well, so there is a case to be made for the upside.
I agree with you. Probably you want him in the pick and roll with Embiid every single time instead of playing off ball more with Maxey. So I agree at that price.
Yeah, and then on the Grizzlies side, I'm not going to be getting into Jaren Jackson or Desmond Bane tonight. Off the back-to-back, both these guys are pretty capped from a minute ceiling perspective, especially Bane coming off of that injury. He was out for a while, and then I don't even know, he wasn't listed on the injury report, but he hasn't played in a back-to-back yet this season, so a chance that he's a late addition, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. Wouldn't really change too much because these guys are all priced up. Maybe Luke Kennard would get a little bit more juice at 3.6K. But yeah, I do think Laravia is a pretty solid play. He's kind of the guy that just does a little bit of everything. Didn't shoot the ball all that great against Denver, but still played 28 minutes, put up 32 DK points. He had 9 rebounds, 8 points, 5 assists. Like, he does a little bit of everything. So I think that he is an interesting option at 4.5K as a value. Shouldn't be too high owned, and maybe could act as a pivot off of those Pelicans and Cleveland guys.
It was more on FanDuel. Yeah, I was tweaking on the site. It was more on FanDuel, small forward, power forward eligibility. He's cheap. A lot of people will go cheap point guard. Laravia can make stuff work. Jam and Giannis, other studs. But yeah, I think Laravia is just fine as a pivot as well. Not a game. Like McCain, if Maxi's out, your Embiid shout is really interesting because, yeah, those minutes have been 32 and 31. Like, we've seen Embiid nuke in those minutes plenty. He's going to be unowned center, at least right now. Like, you could double center, Sengun and him. He's kind of a pivot off of Sengun and somewhat of the same price range in between Giannis. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it at this ownership at all. Unowned for sure. Maxey might play. Yeah, he's questionable. If he plays, it just limits the Jared McCain ownership or the interest for me, and it'd pretty much be no one in this game. You need some past games, though, because a lot of those games above were good. Not my favorite there. Not my favorite in this next game either. Just a couple pieces. Another big spread in this one. OKC Thunder taking on the Portland Trail Blazers. 223.5 total. Thunder big favorites at 12. Injury report in this one. No Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Hartenstein is questionable. You said that was a midday upgrade, correct?
Yep.
And then Portland side, DeAndre Ayton doubtful. Anthony Simons questionable. Yeah, I'll let you talk about the injury designations. One interesting thing, Jalen Williams, we talked about it last Wednesday, just center eligible. Man, is he absolutely crushed since being just center. The usage is phenomenal. The shot attempts are great. Everything is, there's nothing really bad to say about him. 8.5K, going to get some ownership, but I do think less than Sengun in that similar range. SGA is like a pivot off of Giannis. It's kind of hard for me to get there personally. I do think there's enough value if you want to SGA Giannis, you can on this slate, but just in a vacuum, those two, man, the upside on Giannis' side feels a lot higher. And man, I always loved Big Bob Williams. I hated him because he always owned my Bucks, but always loved him as a player. Comes back his third game, drops a 46 piece in 25 minutes. Think he's interesting, and I do like that power forward eligibility. Take this one away. Start with whatever side you would like.
Yeah, I mean, I could see this being a pretty big blowout here. The Thunder coming off of a pretty embarrassing loss, I would say, against the Spurs last night without Wemby, without Devin Vassell. And yeah, definitely getting Hartenstein back is going to be big for them because they've been the worst rebounding team this season, allowing the most offensive rebounds per game, allowing 8.6 points off of offensive rebounds as well. So yeah, definitely need some more front court depth. So adding Hartenstein back into the mix will help them a ton. But yeah, I mean, Portland is just a train wreck on offense this season. They're third worst offense in the league right now, going up against the number 1 ranked defense. I guess there are a few areas of weakness. I mentioned the rebounding stuff for OKC, but their catch and shoot defense has been an issue for them all season long, kind of dating back to last year as well. So that kind of, that makes a guy like Jeremy Grant a little bit interesting, but I just don't think that there's enough upside for him at this price tag. I think that he deserves to be in the 5Ks, and nothing against him as a player. There's just not enough upside for him at 6.3K. But the Simons news is kind of big. Shaedon Sharp's been really good lately, playing a ton of minutes, 36 and 32 and 33 against Minnesota. So he played 2 games against Minnesota, 1 game against Atlanta, so all above 30 in the last 3 games, and been shooting pretty well, taking a ton of shots. Chauncey Billups has talked him up and said that they want him to shoot the ball more. And he put up 33 against Minnesota against Jaden McDaniels, so that's very impressive. And then a game against Atlanta, I didn't get to watch that one. I wasn't sure if Dyson Daniels was on him or not, but either way, 30-plus points in back-to-back games is very good for a guy that's only 5.6K. If Anthony Simons were to miss, and probably going to be really low owned, so I think that he's definitely worth a look in GPPs. Delano Banton, kind of same thing. If Simons were to miss, he's just too good to not play, in my opinion. I know that Little Nick has been, he's a hooper. He deserves to be on a contending team in my eyes, but Little Nick has been on him for all season long. Definitely hit. I think he went for a 30 piece against Minnesota when he had him as a play, and he's definitely earned more playing time. Got up to 26 last game against Atlanta, put up 37.5. So if Simons were to miss, I think that he's interesting.
Yeah, Simons out. You can do it on the slate.
I think it's interesting because he has really, really high upside. It is tough though because both Sharp and Benton only point guard, shooting guard, and that's kind of where the value's coming from tonight. But probably a little bit too thin.
If Simons is out, I mean, he's a hooper, and when he gets hot, like he's broken slates before for sure. So if Simons is out, if Simons is in, no. But you can play him. Lil Neck definitely will be.
And then last guys I mentioned are Klingon and Robert Williams. I think they're both worth some consideration tonight. We've seen the Thunder just get killed by big men that can rebound. That's definitely what both these guys can do. I could see both these guys putting up pretty tournament viable worthy scores, especially Robert Williams because he's power forward eligible. That's really nice. And he's just a point per minute monster. Could see double doubles from both of these guys. I think Klingon, the minutes could be very much at risk here, just with OKC playing a lot faster and playing smaller. It definitely could be a little bit exposed on the defensive end, but I don't know. Teams have been able to keep their centers out there against OKC. Like Zubac didn't lose too much minutes, and then Collins and Bassey, they pretty much took up all 48 last night against them. So maybe there's a little bit of upside for a guy like Klingon, but I do like Robert Williams there at the similar price tag, power forward eligible. And then it's pretty much just SGA and Jalen Williams for me on the OKC side. Both guys have been very good in the absence of Chet. SGA averaging just under 47 DK points per game, and Jalen Williams just under 51 points per game. I think I prefer Jalen Williams just for the price tag decrease. Would much rather spend up for Giannis, like you said, $1,000 more expensive. And then Williams is kind of a pivot off of Sengun. So I like that call a little bit. And there's probably just not enough on these secondary guys. I mean, there's like 13, 15 guys that are projected to get minutes on the OKC side in a possible blowout scenario. They have enough bodies where they can get these guys a little bit of run. So not going to go too in depth into or just too deep into this game as a whole.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to either. Hartenstein was a midday upgrade, so it looks like he could be. And I thought this was a good point. So Cleveland's gone off for over 50 twice. This one was 2 games ago when Robert Williams did sit on the back-to-back. And in the 2 games before that, or last game against Atlanta and the game prior against Minnesota, Robert Williams got a couple more minutes than Cleveland, actually, which is interesting. I mean, both guys have 50-plus point upside in 25 minutes as they showed. Both will be relatively kept in check in ownership. I prefer Williams with the power forward eligibility and just the recent trend a little bit. And just, like if someone gets ran off the floor, it's more likely to be Cleveland than Robert Williams, in my opinion. But both have 50-plus point upside. I would definitely max one of them. And either of them are going to be low enough owned to get you different on a slate like this. So probably my favorite plays in this game. Robert Williams definitely is. Don't like that OKC side much. I do like your Shade and Sharp call as well. That's who Little Neck was referring to, the usage. He can fill it up for sure. So I like that, especially if Simons is out. 3 games left, Rio, as you can see on the zone, 8 p.m. Eastern. Now we jump to 10 p.m. Eastern, a 2-hour window. New York Knicks taking on the Phoenix Suns. 223.5 total. Knicks 5-point favorites. Injury report in this one on the Sun side. Nurkic is questionable. Mason Plumlee will start if Nurkic is out. Bradley Beal is out himself on the Knicks side. No injury news to worry about. You mentioned Brunson. You had some interest there. I don't think this game really gets much ownership. But, man, Thibodeau always is playing his dues minutes. Towns is pretty interesting, I think, at 9-4. Not getting too much ownership at center. I like D-Book as well. Like I liked him more than Drew. Always love me some D-Book when there's no KD. And obviously no Bradley Beal as well. So yeah, break it down. It's the studs for me in this one though.
Yeah, I think that the guards are in pretty good spots here on both sides of this game. I'll start with the Knicks side since they're the away team, but they are favored by 4.5. So it should be a pretty close game here. Not a super high total. Both these teams kind of playing down in pace. But yeah, both these teams defensively are the third and second worst in the league in pick and roll ball handling scoring. So that kind of gets me onto Brunson and Booker on both ends. Brunson definitely seen, the usage has still been pretty good. Touch time, all the assist numbers, all that stuff are still really good. Leads the team in all those meaningful categories, but definitely upside has taken a bit of a hit with Karl-Anthony Towns kind of taking over as the alpha at times for this team. But this could be a spot where I think that Brunson gets it going. He currently sits at 8th best in the league in pick and roll scoring this season. I believe last year he was first or second. Obviously, a much different situation with no Randall out for the second half of the season. But yeah, he's 8.9K. The price continues to come up for no reason, but he's going to be low owned. I think that he's a pretty solid option tonight at 8.9K as a pivot off of some of the guys in that point guard range, upper 9K range that are getting some ownership. So I like Brunson a lot. Cat has been on a tear this season, second on the Knicks in usage at 28%, averaging 51 DK points per game. Matchup's pretty good against Nurkic and Plumlee. Do slightly prefer the matchup for Brunson a little bit better, but there's not much I can say negative against Cat. He's playing like a 10K plus player right now. Obviously had a little bit of a down game. I'll use that quotes because he just didn't play a lot of minutes against the Wizards, only 25, but he still put up 46.5 DK points in that game. So he's very much in play at the center position. I think you could definitely play these guys, Hart, OG, Mikal Bridges, but not sure that this game environment is the spot you want to go. Probably some better places to go in terms of value. But yeah, you know what to get from them. They're going to play a ton of minutes, and one of them likely puts up a tournament-worthy score. Maybe not tonight with the game environment not being the greatest, but could see one of those guys separating a little bit. And then Campaign should get those backup guard minutes. He played really well against Washington, obviously much different situation, but kind of the same reasons that I like Brunson, you could say, for Campaign. And he's the type of guy that can fill up the stat sheet, but very, very tough to get to him at the strong value plays at point guard, shooting guard. So I probably won't be looking to get too much of him.
Revenge, and then save it for the night slate. I just want to add that.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good way to play it. And then Booker is pretty much the only guy I'm looking to on the Sun side. Really seen a huge uptick in usage with KD and Beal off the court this season, 31%, 28.5% assist percentage, averaging 1.26 points per minute with those guys off the court. Hasn't really seen a ton of volume in pick and roll scenarios this season, but I could see that get increased here. Yeah, they need him to get going if they want a chance to win this game because they just don't have a ton of secondary offense. So yeah, I guess like Tyus Jones, you're not playing him on the slate. There's just too much point guard value. But maybe on the night slate, kind of keep that in mind because I do like the matchup for the ball handlers on the Sun side. I probably wouldn't be looking to reserve too many roster spots for a guy like Mason Plumlee. They're just not really playing him a ton of minutes right now. 23 minutes last game. He's a very good point per minute guy, but they are getting Iguodaro out there for a little bit. Bol is even mixing in a little bit. So there's enough bodies in the front court where they don't really need to run him out there for a ton of minutes. So yeah, this is a kind of a gross game environment, but I do like Booker and Brunson here a little bit.
Yeah, I love Booker, no doubt about that. I think Cat's interesting. You like Brunson. It's mainly the spends, and I think that's kind of the story of the slate. We hinted at it in the beginning, but the value's so good in that first game. I will say an update to the first game. Jonathan said we did get a D-Mish tweet, so
okay, so he's playing.
Yep. So there you go with that. But I think it's the studs. I think D-Book's a very solid set up top, and getting the studs right, like you're gonna need pieces in that first game. I'd be very shocked if like only 2 pieces on the Cavs or Pelicans total was there. I think the chalk gets there. What other pieces around it, mid-tier, upper-tier guys break the slate? I think we could find some in this game. 465 watching. We have 2 games left. Appreciate every single one of you. All we ask, like button, subscribe button. 2 seconds out of your day. Many of you probably have forgot. Join late. Again, appreciate every single one watching. Shows on this channel live every single day. Rio Talking Hoops Monday through Wednesday. Football Monday, Thursday, Friday. MMA on this channel. Quick hits. You name it, we got it. Hit subscribe. You'll be notified when we go live. like button helps us out a ton. And if you do want to join us at SHIPITNation.com, right now you're looking at the stone up here. We do have showdown content. Nobody better in the business than Rio. Projections, ownership for all the sports, cash report, GPP core report, our own optimizer, NFL, NBA, MMA, PGA, all the sports right there. All you got to do if you want to join, SHIPITNation.com, join the nation. You can check out all of our packages weekly, monthly, 6-month, annual, per sports. All of them do include the Discord, except weekly. No better community out there to join. Rio, you had a comment pulled up, and I was talking. What was it?
Yeah, this has just been a pretty brutal stretch for some of these teams playing tonight. Lots of back-to-backs, really condensed schedule with all the in-season tournament stuff going on. So I think they have like a 3 or 5 day break after tonight. So they should be able to get those guys out there for a good amount of minutes. But yeah, I do agree. Knicks good chance that they could blow them out just with, I mean, they're going to have some tired legs on the Phoenix side for sure.
Good call on that. Let's get to the next game. Again, 2 left. First thing I look at right here, I see a big team or big over-under, high in pace, 8-point spreads, Warriors and the Hawks, 239.5 total. Again, Warriors 8-point favorites. Important injury news on the Atlanta side. Jalen Johnson is questionable. Garrison Matthews probably starts if he is out. The thing about this game is, again, the Pelicans, Cleveland, locks right away at 7:30 Eastern. Giannis locks at 7:30. We want exposure to that stuff. Is it worth backloading? I don't know, but I do know you can play like a Steph. You can play, I don't know. I know you can play Steph, and I don't know about after that. So you talk to me. Like, can we get to Draymond? Wiggins at 5'4", but there's you mentioned multiple people in that 5K. You didn't like Boston, but you liked, or you didn't like Javonte Green. But you liked what? You like Giddey a little bit. Who else was in that 5K range? You mentioned TJ McConnell. I meant Thompson if he's there. Shaden Sharp. Like, I don't know. Wiggins doesn't excite me much. It's really just Steph in this side. And then we won't have Jalen Johnson news, and I probably won't have spots to really change things. How do you see this game?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the ownership, it is a little bit interesting with this being such a high total, but it's just tough to get into both sides of the game because the Hawks introduced Bufkin and Bogdanovich back into the lineup or back into the rotation. So it's definitely taken off some of the minutes upside on the guys like Hunter and Ricochet and Dyson Daniels even. He's all the way up at 7K. And then Jalen Johnson, I don't know if, like I kind of mentioned at the top of the show, I don't know if there's enough like moving pieces if you were to miss that it would change too much. Like definitely Ricochet and Hunter would look a little bit better. But it's a tough matchup. I mean, Golden State is very, very good defensively. One of the best teams in the league, fourth in the league in defensive rating this season. They're allowing the second least transition points. I guess like Trey is kind of interesting just for the fact that he is only 9.5K, has a massive role, still going to play a ton of minutes. I mean, he had a huge game last time out. Well, not from a fantasy perspective, but he had 19 assists. I think he had like 31 potential assists. Only put up 7 shots. Made 1 field goal, 5 free throws. So a very Joel Embiid type stat line there. But I don't know. I mean, there's nothing to say that he can't go out there and have a big game. I get it. The matchup is terrible. Golden State has some very good defenders to throw at him, but it's a little bit different. You don't have D'Anthony Mellon out there, so their on-ball defense is a little bit worse. They have I don't know who they would start on him. Maybe, I don't know if it would be Wiggins or if it would be like a Lindy Waters or Steph. But no, I think I'll try to get to some Trae Young. Very easy to get over the field on him, and he definitely still has upside in bad matchups. And then on the Warriors side, this is a really good spot for them. Stylistically, the Hawks are giving up the most 3-pointers per game, the most catch-shoot points per game. So Steph in a very good spot. The individual matchup against Dyson Daniels is a little bit worrisome because Dyson has been great defensively this season, elite as an all-ball defender, just the crazy steal numbers. But the Warriors, they'll find ways to get Steph the ball, so I'm not too worried about that at all. No minutes limit for Steph, so we should see 34 at the minimum, with upside for more if the game is close. So I think that he's an excellent option, 9.1K. I don't think I want to get to Draymond. I guess the minutes have been pretty good for him. He still has double-double upside. Been close to some huge games, 9 rebounds, 8 rebounds last 2 games, 7 assists in both of those games. So he's been pretty close. You just need the ball to fall in his hands a little bit more, and then he could be putting up a big score. So I think that definitely playable, but not my favorite play. I think that Buddy Hield is kind of interesting, but again, if he was small forward eligible, it'd be a lot better. He's only shooting guard eligible. I like the matchup a ton for him. So more of a late slate type of play. And then Wiggins, really good matchup DVP wise for him. I think the Hawks are towards the bottom of the league. DVP versus small forwards. Yeah, I see bottom 4. So he's interesting, playing a good amount of minutes. I think Kuminga is a little bit interesting here too as well, because the Hawks do play fast-paced basketball. That kind of is right in line with how Kuminga likes to play. So I could see him putting up – I mean, he's just not playing a ton of minutes. So it's – yeah, I don't know. It's hard to get to these Warrior guys. They're just playing so many guys, so many minutes. Now, it would be a little different because we did get Gary Payton downgraded and Kyle Anderson is questionable. So maybe it condenses a little bit more and Kuminga gets into like the mid-25 range or something like that. But as it stands right now, I don't have interest in much on the Warriors outside of Steph. I think Lindy Waters is a good play on the late slate as well. Yeah, sniper from deep. You're just kind of hoping for a couple shots to fall his way. Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to get into this game more. It's just tough because the rotations both benches are really deep here.
Yeah, I don't like this game pretty much at all. And I didn't like the Philly-Memphis game really. Like 8-game slate, make it a 6-game slate outside of Steph is how I see it. Last game on the slate, Magic Clippers, the lowest total, 204.5. We see Magic 3.5-point favorites. Just look at the pace compared to last game. The higher the number, the better. Not great pace on either side. Looking at injuries, no Norman Powell for the Clippers, no Wendell Carter for the Magic. I don't love this game, but I think there's at least a couple interesting pieces. Franz has been he's been a stud since Paulo went down. The usage is great. I mean, 51, 63, 46, 55, 46, 46. I'm totally good. Low to mid-30s usage rate. Still a fair tag at 9K. Getting up there enough where it keeps his ownership in check, but totally in on him. Then Kevin Porter Jr. Anytime I get a chance to play this guy, I play him because he's a hooper. The dude does not care about passing the ball. And, yeah, he gets hot. He can put up a big score. So 2 really strong plays, I think. KPJ, Franz. If you want to get to Harden, Suggs, I'll let you talk about them. Last game of the slates. Hit the like button when Rio's talking for the last one. Show some appreciation. Take it away, Rio. Great job.
Oh, apparently I got to stop with the DVP references. Jake DeWitt is demanding that I stop there. So, yeah, you got it, Jake.
I wasn't going to bring it up. People are going to be people.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, this is definitely I would say the worst game environment in the slate. There's 2 really good defenses. Orlando is second best defensive rated team this season. Clippers right there, 7th best, both playing down pace. Don't see a ton of scoring here, but the injury stuff does interest me a little bit on the Clippers side with no Norm Powell. We're going to see James Harden's going to have to do pretty much everything for this team. Seen him kind of fill up the stat sheet pretty much every game this season. He sees a massive usage rate increase, plus 9% there, has a 36% assist rate percentage, 13% rebounding rate, averaging 1.44 fantasy points per minute. I think that he's kind of interesting. Might be a little bit underprojected and overlooked tonight for the possible upside from him. So I think that he is an interesting option on the Clippers side. But yeah, you mentioned Kevin Porter Jr. I am totally aligned with you there. I think that he's a really strong value at that point guard spot. I'm not sure if they're going to insert him into the starting lineup or not. It depends how they view the matchup. I could see it being like an Amir Coffey, just for a little bit more defense. Probably going to keep Terrence Mann off the bench because I think that they've kind of had him settling into that role a little bit more. So either way, Kevin Porter Jr. going to see a really big increase in role. Probably going to step into that Norm Powell role. They're going to need some secondary offense with Harden off the court, and even alongside of him, he's kind of taken away a little bit of usage when they share the court together. So I think Kevin Porter Jr. makes a ton of sense. Probably not going to be going to any Zubac tonight. Just a really tough matchup. I won't mention the DVP numbers, but it's bad. And then, Franz Wagner been great this season. I saw they mentioned that draft with Franz. I think he went, 7th or 8th in that draft. And Cade went first, kind of seeing how it would rearrange. And I think that if you went back and did that draft again, he's possibly the number 1 overall pick. I think it's pretty close between him and Cade. But that draft was loaded, had even Evan Mobley in there too. So, but yeah, Franz has been great this season, really stepping up in a big way with Paulo out, keeping this team in contention for when they do get him back. They'll definitely be contenders in the East. But he's hitting a lot of optimal lineups just because a lot of the value is at that guard position. So I think you'd be pretty happy with him as your last man in. Don't really have much to say. It is a tough matchup against Derrick Jones Jr., but he's been good enough that it doesn't really matter. And I don't think I'm going to be getting to any of these secondary guys. If you want to get to Goga, 5.4K, you could with no Wendell Carter Jr. Maybe Jonathan Isaac gets out there for a little bit more. They did close with him last game, so maybe they do that again. But I think they probably going to want some more size with Goga and Wagner against Ivica Zubac. So, yeah, just Franz for me on the Magic side. And then I like James Harden a little bit, and then Kevin Porter Jr. for sure.
Great breakdown, Rio. Great breakdown. Hour 10 talking 8 games. Hopefully have the same success as last Wednesday. So many in the Discord. I've been loving NBA. Shout out our man Answer. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Always in the Discord. Him, Pair by Little Neck. Always helping people out in there. NHL's going on right now. We got the Stone. We got projections for that. Get a little quick glimpse. How many games we got? 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, nice little our NHL slate. If you like baseball, if you're a correlation freak, stuff like that, hockey is your sport. Not as much news. It's about lining, or you have lines up because you can get double assists, goals, power play, etc. Definitely check out Nate's stuff. Does a quick hit out there. If you want to join, shipitnation.com. Go right down to join the nation. You can see all of our deals, weekly, monthly, 6-month, annual, all of our packages. All of them include the Discord, as you can see, except the weekly. If you want Shiptimizer, our own optimizer over here, projections, ownership loaded in, can also go to that. If you just want NFL, so to say, or PGA, you're watching an NBA show, you probably want that. It's all access. Projections, ownership, have a deal for that as well. Awesome stuff, Rio. Again, he has a slate playing up under NBA. You have a showdown slate playing later, 10:30 Eastern game. Always good prize pools. But again, shout out Jonathan yesterday for shipping that slate. Good stuff as always, Rio. Any final thoughts for the people?
No, not really. I think this is a pretty solid slate. Definitely going to be late swapping tonight and building for some potential in-out scenarios. So, yeah, nothing much else to say there. I hope everybody has a good night tonight. And it's going to be BJ taking over showdown for me tonight. I got some family obligations, but I will be back. We're swapping Wednesday and Saturday tonight, so I will be on the Saturday slate. BJ will be on the slate tonight. So you guys will be in very good hands there. He's done a really good job this season with all of the NBA stuff on the weekends. And he's crushing. He's had a really good season so far for NBA. So glad to have him on the team with us.
Absolutely. Shout out BJ. Crushes it in the DFS street. So he'll be doing that tonight. You're on Saturday. Our man Ham has it taken care on Sunday. Shout out to the whole NBA team, projection team as well. Yeah, shipitnation.com if you want to join. Hit that like, hit that subscribe on the way out. Good stuff as always, Rio. Get in the Discord. He'll be in there all night like always. Let's make some cheese today for my man Rio. I'm Titletown. Be safe. Peace.